Should I, male, 23, forgive my mother, female, 47, for having an affair on my father which ended up killing him? So I posted this months ago in a different Reddit community, but people kept telling me to post it here, so here we are. So in 2019 I was a senior in high school and my sister, female, 20, who was 15 at the time, was a freshman in high school, lived with our parents who were married for 20 years. My father was a lawyer in Manhattan and my mother runs a boutique in Queens. And we own a home on the Queens Long Island border. Now before I start, I just want to say that my mother was a very loving and affectionate mother and was very involved in my life, and I loved her more than anything in the world. Anyway, in 2019 my father and I noticed my mother acting very strangely in her day-to-day life. She started hanging out with colleagues much younger than her and started buying very expensive designer clothes like Chanel and Christian Dior, and she got her lips done and was taking very expensive trips to Europe very frequently without me or my dad, but would take my sister once in a while. My dad started getting nervous and worried with all the time she was spending away from home, and one day she told my dad she had to stay at her job late and didn't come home that night until 4 a.m. So the next day, while she was in the shower, my dad took her phone and saw explicit messages with another man and videos of them having sex. He freaked out and they got into a giant screaming match, and all I can remember was my dad saying, "Do you want to be with him or your family?" And she just kept saying, "I don't know," over and over again. A little while later my dad came downstairs and told me what was going on and what mom was up to, but I didn't believe him at first. Then he brought her phone and briefly showed me messages of my mom and affair partner sexting each other, and a part of a video I wish I didn't see, and I was broken. I couldn't believe she would betray us like that. My dad was sober from liquor at that point for a little less than 15 years, but he immediately went out and started drinking again and came home drunk and slept on the couch, and I never seen him that much a mess before. He was a lawyer, so he was a well put together guy, so seeing him like that made me sad. A couple days later around 9 p.m. he said he was going to the bar to see friends and he would be back in a few hours. I went to sleep. Then my mom woke me and sister up that night crying around 3 to 4 a.m. saying we have to go to the hospital. Unfortunately my dad was drunk driving home and drove head-on into a guardrail on the highway/freeway at 94 miles per hour and was pronounced dead by the time we got there. My whole world collapsed in that moment. I knew I just lost the most important person in my life, and as far as I was concerned it was all my mom's fault. I immediately felt a strong hatred towards her and just went mute until his wake, which was about 10 days later. So at the wake my mom introduced me to a man who said his name was John. The first immediately knew it was my mom's affair partner because I remember the name on the text my dad showed me, which the name was Johnny, and my mom said it was a good friend of hers. The worst part about this is I watched that prick kneel at my father's coffin and say a prayer over his dead body. After the wake I let my mother have it. I called her every name in the book for the next 4 months. I was trying to get her to hate me as much as I hated her, but she never budged. She told she loved me every day, and no matter what I say or do to her she'll always be right there for me, which pissed me off even more. Maybe 30 days after my dad's funeral she started publicly dating that Johnny guy. She couldn't even wait till her husband of 20 years was cold. So I just literally stopped speaking to her unless it was an insult. Now I played baseball and was lucky enough to get a Division I scholarship for baseball to a school in California. My mother wanted me to stay closer to home, but I said screw that and went to California that August. Once I left and got to school I cut all contact with her and blocked her number and social media accounts, and we haven't seen each other, or I haven't even heard her voice in almost 5 years. I knew if I needed something financially I had my dad's parents, so it wasn't that hard cutting contact. She sent letters for the first 18 months but stopped when she realized I wasn't gonna budge, and a year later after I left she moved Johnny and his daughters into our family home that my father bought with his own money. I guess it's their home now. I had a relationship with my sister, but once Johnny and his daughters moved and they were the same age as my sister and became best friends, my sister and the affair partner oldest daughter are now at the same college and same sorority at Monmouth University in New Jersey. So once I found that out I cut contact with my sister as well. I heard that my mom and Johnny got engaged some months back and I want nothing to do with it. I'm writing this from my grandparents' dad's parents' house in Florida where I spent every holiday for the past 5 years, and earlier today I saw a picture my cousin posted on Instagram. It was her, my aunt and uncle, my mom and sister, and Johnny and his daughters. Apparently they're on vacation in the Swiss Alps on a skiing trip. And I realized that this was the first time I saw her face in 5 years, and I guess it made me miss her a little bit. I have to admit, before all this happened she was a wonderful mother who I loved dearly. I was an absolute mama's boy. Before all of this I've realized that I'm starting to miss her a lot. A part of me wants to forgive her and reconnect with her, but I don't want to betray my father's honor by doing so. I feel guilty to forgive her because of my father, so I'm just lost on what to do. So I asked you, Reddit, should I forgive and reconnect with my mother, or should I stay away and defend my father's honor? What should I do?
She brought the affair partner to your father's funeral. That is beyond disrespectful to your father's memory and is just classless. Clearly your choice, but no way is that forgivable to me.
Sorry, but I'm a spiteful person. I'd cut her from my life and have the best life. I have people I don't talk to that others have tried to make me forgive. Nope, never. They made their choices, and I'll live happily without them. Your mother had no remorse. Your dad would be alive if she didn't do what she did.
I hate that life is unfair. Your mom cheated on your dad. Spit on his wake by having her AP in his funeral, and not even a month after his funeral, already made her relationship with AP public. I am a vindictive person. The level of disrespect she did to you and your father will be unforgivable in my book. She already has a happy life. Let her be and build your own life. Your grandparents will need you to be there for them. I don't know what will be their reaction if they know you are now back in your mother's life, but you are an adult. You can make your own decisions.
Wife, 34, female, of 12 years left me, 34, male, but still wants to be the best friends we were. Jane has been improving lately, and is trying to convince me to see a therapist. I've never really done that before, apart from a psychiatrist when I was younger, but now feels like a good time to give it a try. I was surprised by a few messages this week from people telling me to forgive my father and stepmother, as well as re-invite them to the wedding. That's not happening. In fact, I'm not willing to ever forgive my stepmother. My dad has now degraded to a huge maybe, but I will never understand or forget what she did. Also, though the wedding is the last thing on our minds right now, we're not postponing it. We considered rescheduling, but the date we'd settled on is pretty much the only one that works for our guests. We have passwords with all our vendors, and gave them all clear instructions not to talk to anyone but us. Jane's family is bigger and closer to each other, which is why they're more involved in the wedding than mine, but I do have family participating. My sister is one of the bridesmaids, 2 of my cousins are groomsmen, and my mom is walking down the aisle with the wedding party. Going through all of this with Jane has made me understand even more just how much I love this woman. I couldn't ask for a better partner to start a family with, and I have no idea what I'd do without her. This didn't tear us apart, and I couldn't be more thankful. I probably won't make any more updates until after the wedding, unless something big happens. In the meantime, as always, best wishes to all of you. After our fight, we came up with a no contact and I had left for the entire month. 2 weeks in, I find out she is in love with him now and that we are getting divorced, and then she spent the rest of the time with him through Christmas. We are both parting ways now, but she still wants to be my best friend. This is something we were before we got married, and we could support each other so much. She said explicitly to her new guy that she still wants me in her life, and he is okay with it. I want to support her so much, and I don't want to lose my best friend. I feel like I've moved on, but every time we talk, it gets extremely emotional and on a much higher level than your average conversation. She tells me that I am so much more supportive and in tune with my feelings, and that's why I couldn't have been like this before everything happened. I honestly still love her unconditionally despite everything that has happened. My unconditional love for her is that I want her to be happy, even if it isn't with me but in the arms of someone else, which hurts me so much. She is still in our home that we bought together, but she does not want anything from our marriage. No money, no stuff besides what is hers and her car. She said that everything that she ever wanted is to finally get to go home north. She missed the snow, she missed the seasons, she missed being close to her family. Every day, she finds something even better in almost every way that gets better and better. Literally, she is getting absolutely everything she could have ever wanted. The only thing is, I'm not part of that picture in the role I would want to be. Last night, she told me she is scared of moving forward without the comfort of me being there with her. She says she would somehow want a piece of me to bring with her, to comfort her because she is heading into this brand new thing alone and it scared her. Being the person I am, and my unconditional love for her, I calmed her down and told her about everything she was about to get, and how this is the last time she have to feel this way. I comforted her, I validated her feelings, I told her that she is strong and that she wanted everything that is coming her way. I want to be there for her, I want to see her become happier than she has ever been. But am I in the wrong? Should we stay friends? Should she be able to talk to me about these things? Will I be able to heal properly like this with her? Where we still talk to each other and send messages back and forth? Or should I just take myself out of this situation? I am so lost about this. Here is what some people had to say.
Best friends don't betray one another. She just wants to feel better about what she has done. Do allow her to manipulate you.
She will get her better life, he will take all the pain. If he don't cut her of his life, he will never move forward. Stop this best friend bullshit, you both hurt each other enough. And it will keep going, either you ask her to stay with you and try it again or you both end it right now forever.
As tough as it is, I wouldn't even ask her to stay. She has already destroyed the relationship and Poster doesn't need her to inflict more pain. Poster let her go and move on to a brighter future that doesn't include her in any capacity. It will be tough and miserable, but you deserve much better.
Ultimately, she won't get the better life. This event has marked her, and she'll find that she'll lose a lot of quality relationships as a result. She may have some fun for a while, but that will fade as the consequences of her actions really start to sink in. No quality person will want anything real to do with her ever again. As for him, choosing to be friends with someone who lies, deceives, and manipulates isn't a good person to have around in any way. People like this are users, and they typically only like to be around when they're getting something out of the deal. They won't be there for you when you need them, unless there's something to gain from it. Ultimately, these people make you feel drained rather than fill your cup. It's no wonder they had communication problems. People like her don't communicate. Everything is one-sided, and one person is always right. Again, draining, a clean break from her is the only way out, and it will all remove toxic enablers who have been surrounding this couple for years. The Poster will lose a lot of connections, but something like this reveals the people he can trust. It's the only gift we get from these situations. Hopefully the Poster takes that gift and make a promise to himself to never, ever let anyone into their life like this again. Life is too short, and low-quality people just aren't worth it.
Correct. The Poster probably fulfilled 80% of her emotion and physical needs and the boyfriend added maybe 50%, so she was happy. If the Poster cuts ties with her as she did to him, she will end up with the 50% and will keep FINF the new guy and using the Poster as her emotional support animal. You gotta say goodbye or you will waste many years of your life for her.
Am I the a-hole for not telling my former fiancé I bought her dream house? 10 years ago, my fiancé left me, 38, male, a few weeks before our wedding. We grew up in a small town. We were friendly, went to the same school, but we never were in the same clique. She was one of the popular kids and I wasn't. A few years after college, I moved back home when my dad got sick. I found a job in my field about 45 minutes away from home. I would help take my dad to his chemo appointments. It was during one of those appointments I ran into my ex. She was now worked at the hospital. One day while waiting, I asked her out. It turned out we shared a lot of the same interests. It seemed like our relationship was going great. About a year or so into dating my ex and I moved into a rented house together. The following year, I proposed. We began looking for a house. My ex always wanted to live in her grandparents' house on the lake near our town. Her family was forced to sell the house when her grandparents died because of an inheritance dispute. 6 months before our wedding, a chance event happened. The couple who bought her grandparents' lake house had grown tired of our snowy winters. It took some work and nearly all of my savings, but I was able to buy her dream house. It was going to be my surprise wedding present, so I didn't dare tell her or anyone in her family my plans. A month before our wedding, my ex and her friends went to Miami for her bachelorette party. I am not sure of all of what happened there. Part of me doesn't really want to know, but I do know her high school boyfriend was there. When she got back from the trip, she broke down and confessed she was afraid to get married and wanted to call it off. It was a mess. She later moved to Florida and eventually married said high school boyfriend. I ended up moving back to the city for an amazing job. In the meantime, I still had the lake house. With the help of my mom and dad, we started to fix up the lake house. It took a few years. My mom and dad would look after the contractors while I was in the city. Having the house was perfect when everything locked down. I was able to escape the city and work remotely from the lake house. I now live here full-time and work remotely. This summer we had 4th of July at the lake house. My sister-in-law used photos from the lake this summer in her Christmas card. One of those cards made it to my ex's cousin. The cousin recognized the house. The Saturday before New Year's, my ex's mother and sister were at my front door. After pleasantries and answering their initial questions, they made an offer to buy it. I refused. They were not happy. A few days I got a long text from my ex. This was the first time in about 9 years she has talked with me. She called me and asked for keeping this from her. Her family is blaming her for losing the house again. She then asked me to sell. I still have no intention to sell. Now her and her family are complaining on social media that this is some sort of revenge. Am I the a-hole? Here is what some people had to say.
Not the a-hole. Your intention was to surprise your ex with the house at the wedding. If you had called off the wedding, I'd reconsider my judgment, but she is the reason why she doesn't have access to that house. On top of that, you've made the house your own. Enjoy it.
I'll go against the grain here. The ex didn't f-ed around and found out. The ex reconnected with a former boyfriend on a girl's trip, went home and was honest with the original poster and broke it off. I don't see where the ex is a villain here, who deserves to have revenge exacted upon her. She didn't marry the poster anyway and steal years of his life while in love with someone else. She realized she still loved the high school boyfriend, told the poster and broke things off before the wedding. I'll take that every fine day over someone going through the motions for as many years as they can handle before leaving because they never truly loved me. Honestly, in this at least, I consider the fiancé to be an honest and forthright person. Now, as regards the lake house, fiancé can f off. Poster's house, fair and square.
Some people responded.
I see where you're coming from, but she was not a good person, because if you really love someone you don't just instantly rekindle things with an ex like that. Your mind would be so focused on the wedding etc., there would not be space for that.
But if you are a good person, and you find that you are that level of interested in an ex, the right thing to do is break things off immediately rather than cheat. Which she did. I get that you are saying that if she loved the poster she wouldn't have had those feelings for the ex, but hearts don't always work that way. She's not a bad person for breaking things off when she discovered the commitment wasn't there. It doesn't mean she was lying about her feelings for the poster.
Which you assume she did. That's equally as likely as she cheated and then broke things off. She definitely did the right thing by not marrying the poster, but that doesn't mean she did all the right things before that.
Oh, she cheated. It's obvious. I mean, she wasn't afraid of getting married until the ex came around. She was afraid of getting married to the poster and still wanting her ex.
Anyway, people in the comment section are pretty divvied about the ex being a good person or not. But for the house? Everyone agrees that this is his. And I do too. First, he wouldn't have bought it if he knew he would get dumped. And second, it was 100% his money, not hers. And this is it for today's story. See you soon.